What's up YouTube, Lambo here, and today I have a very special replay for you guys. It is what I believe to be the game of the year so far. Now I know a lot of YouTubers use this phrase game of the year very freely, but they really have one thing missing pretty much always, which is myself. I'm not in those games, and in this one I am. I have played this game 4 days ago against Spirit in the World Team League. It was a relatively important match. At this point it was 2-1 for us. You need 4 to win the clan war, and it was the first clan war of the season. So without further ado, let's get into the game. I'll basically tell you guys what I was thinking during the game, and I'll pause. I'll also speed up the game, so this is not a replay cast. It is rather a what did I think at this moment in time, and that you guys understand what in general went through my mind during this game, because it was an emotional roller coaster, but I won't spoil too much. Right off the get-go, I never upload YouTube guides of builds that I think are bad. So even in this important match, I am playing 1717, so Gas Pool Hatch, which is the latest builder guide that I uploaded to YouTube. So if I can play it against Spirit in very important tournaments, that means you can play it as well in Diamond League, in Masters League, in Grandmaster. Even if you're a low Grandmaster, you're watching this. Even if you're a high Grandmaster, if you're watching Miko, Sasha, Rainer, this is not a bad build. You should try it. I'm pretty sure most of you already have. Okay. Either way, my opponent opened up with a CC first, no scout, Reaper. So this was pretty good for me because I saw there was no SCV scout, and because I saw there was no Reaper coming across, I'm not showing these links. Instead, I'm waiting for 8 links to group up on the other side. I'm spotting where the Reaper is headed, so I'm avoiding it, and then I'll run in. And he actually was searching for our Zerglings, but it's still a good start. We get a mule that was still more than halfway alive, and we'll get more and more SCVs. I believe this on the side it says 6, but I think it's actually 5 SCVs and a mule. I think the mule counts as well here, but it's definitely a good start. Now the one thing that Spirit has going for him is that he didn't scout at all, so he didn't play safe against the pool first. Let's say I was doing a roach build. He was just gonna die because he didn't make a bunker. Instead he went for a 3cc, pretty much the greediest opener possible, and then instantly going into 3 barracks. Now from this point on, I'm a little bit ahead, and the map is also good for Zerg. Altitude is good for Zerg because of the distance, and because you can expand towards both sides. The gold base also in general is really good, but only very, very late into the game when you can actually secure it as a 6th base usually. So I'm playing it very safe. I'm getting an early lair. I'm getting a baneling nest. Now I figured it's probably not benchy, but I'm still getting 1 safety spore, it looks like. The reason, okay, this spore is not even bad, even if it's, for example, a fast double medevac drop. Even if there is no starboard units at all with the opener, this spore is always good to have in the main base, so it's not bad to get. But yeah, I was pretty sure it was not going to be benchy because he stopped after 4 Hellions, which would be uncommon to go benchy after. I'm just speeding through the opening phase because of how long this game is going to go. We're not going to mine out the entire map, don't worry, but it will be quite the doozy. So this is his first double medevac timing. It arrives at 620 on my side of the map on altitude, which is very early. Now, you have to remember that I did something aggressive, but this early game doesn't really slow you down, so it's not really an issue for me to defend this. Or at least it shouldn't be, but I didn't pre-morph banelings, and now I have my queens not grouped up. If those queens were all next to each other, I would be in a prime position to just not lose anything. Now I'm going for the engagement. I'm missing 1 transfuse here. 2 transfuses missed, and those are 3 queens dead, 4 queens dead at this point. I can't really engage because my banelings weren't ready. Also, 4 slow banelings really aren't that good. So at this point in the game, I pretty much lose my lead. Or so I thought. Like at this point I thought, okay, I might even be a little bit behind. I lost 10 workers and a bunch of queens. That was a terrible trade overall for me. What I didn't know, of course, is that my opponent forgot the 1-1. And that means that we're actually ahead in upgrades now, and that also means that any future timing that my opponent wants to do is gonna be heavily haltered. Now, this is the first time I'm watching it from both sides, so I didn't realize that during the game that my opponent never got the 1-1. But now he did go for the tank push, so we're coming in with the surround, pre-split with the banelings, so we don't take too much damage from focus fire. And that was a very nice cleanup. At this point, we're around even in resources lost. Our only issue is that we really don't have that many drones. We were almost even in workers with the Terran, which is never good. He went for double Liberator here, probably because his upgrades are late. So he doesn't want to go for a continued big timing attack. He kills 10 workers overall, so now we're once again behind in workers. I haven't seen a 4cc yet, so I'm playing very careful, but he made the 4cc inside his natural, which is very, very safe. At this point, I see the extra factory. I know, okay, he's probably has a forward base already. I'm getting 2-2, and I'm getting Infestation Pit for Hive. Still on a super low worker count. This is one of my biggest weaknesses, is that in tournaments, I'm too afraid to drone sometimes. Even if it's unnecessary. Like, the moment I clean up the tank push, I should know that I can go up to 80, more than 80 workers. Honestly, close to 90 on a map like this. But instead, I didn't. I also don't have a perfect Overlord vision, so it's not a perfect game by me whatsoever. But now that he kills my pool, I have no other choice than to make drones, because I won't be able to make units for a while. So I'm firing up a bunch of drones, going straight to 90, which is what I should have done to begin with. So yeah, it would have been nice if I lost my pool a little earlier. that kind of helped me there in making my decision making a little easier. Piotr at this point just turtling it up. This is what Spirit is the best at. This is his comfort zone, doing absolutely nothing. Microing maybe one side of drops, sometimes two sides of drops when he's feeling fancy, like right now. And just sitting at home, preparing for the late game, getting additional command centers. And clearing creep. My creep spread not great in this game. So he's doing a good job at denying that. This time we are decently pre-spread, but we don't really have a mobile anti-air. We don't have any Hydras yet. And I also don't have spores here. My opponent doesn't have 2-2 yet though, so he can't really trade too effectively. Whenever he drops his units, it's not the greatest trade. I realize now that he's trying to take this base, which is a fantastic scout for me, because I definitely do want to deny that. If you look at altitude, this base is very exposed. Now, if he has all of his army here, you can quickly move around here and try to pounce. The thing is, if a sensor tower over here goes up, even just this sensor tower, honestly, if he moves perfectly, he should be able to always have his army in position. The way you can abuse this is faking that you have your entire army here and then coming with a second army over here. It's always about finding the least fortified position. At this point, he actually finished the planetary, so I was like, okay, I'm just gonna try to blow this planetary up. His 2-2 actually finished for this fight, which was a little sad. I didn't really know that I had a timing there. I figured he was much closer to 3-3. But what actually happened is that his upgrades are still behind and he didn't even start 3-3 yet. At this point, he's counterattacking with about 1 medevac worth of marines, 1 SCV, and 3 medevacs. An unusual counterattack force. So at this point, I'm definitely ahead. Like, the last fight was fantastic for me. I managed to cancel the base. Not only cancel, I managed to kill it because he actually continued morphing it into a planetary. And I established this base, which means right now my mineral income is buzzing. You can see it here, 3.6k. If my opponent is not dropping mules, he's not coming close to that. So at this point, my goal is to always try to deny this base or take an even trade. If you deny this base and take a bad trade, it's still fine for me. But if I, let's say, take a bad trade here, it's not great because it doesn't accomplish anything. So at this point, I'm trying to split up my units. I'm getting a lot of stuff done here, so this was very nice. 11, 14 SCVs. Also clearing up the tank is super cool. This tank was fit in nicely behind the sensor tower, which is now burning down. Even just getting a sensor tower is quite nice. Always focus fire sensor towers when you have the chance to. We're still on 88 workers. So let's look at my vision right now. I control the entire map, and my opponent is completely contained. I can decide where I want to attack. I can decide how I want to attack, and I can try to trick my opponent in having poor army movement. But in general, it's always down for the Terran. It's always up to the Terran to make a mistake in terms of army movement. It's definitely not easy to always be in position perfectly. That's why, for example, if you watch Maru, for example, it looks so easy. If he's just in position all the time and he takes good trade after good trade. But it's not that simple. You can see he's F2ing around here a little bit to the left. But that's what differentiates Maru from other players, is that he will see this Ling run by and he will already most of the time have the perfect amount of units there to defend it, or select exactly 10 Marines or 20 or whatever, the perfect amount to then send to this side. I figured this base was a little bit exposed, but Spirit was in position and I couldn't do much there, but now I figured, okay, he's probably gonna move back because I went out of sensor tower range, went back inside, and now I'm blowing up the planetary once again. Getting a bunch of siege tanks as well. Resources lost almost even at this point, which is really good for Zerg. Overall, my feeling was that I was winning really hard in this game. I did not think this was actually close. He's getting a bunch of ultras here. On the back end of that fight, I also don't have anti-air, so I can't really save. The Viper is being chased down by the Liberators. Now he's going for the mass drop into the main base. Also trying to attack here, but he didn't lift his units over here. Once again, a decent cleanup. At the same time, we're counterattacking. Sadly, no Overseer here, or he sniped it. I'm actually going to try watching this from my vision for a little bit to see. So you can see what's going on my side. So I figured the Queens would hold on that location, so I can just send the rest of my units forward. He only had one Marauder left at my gold base, which is actually kind of annoying. I thought 2 links would just clean it up, since they're crack links, but they weren't good enough. And at this point, Spirit is not even maxed out anymore, and he lost all of his extra bases. I know, because I was just here, that he doesn't have this base, the 5 o'clock base, and he also doesn't have the gold base yet. And now we go to check again, and he hasn't even been mining that much from his original 3rd base. So the game looks great for us. At this point, I'm also starting pathogen glands, because the moment you start losing bases with a low gas style, you will start floating gas usually, because it's more efficient to mine extra geysers rather than like running out of bases, running out of places to go with your drones. So it's good to mix in infestors in general. Now we're attacking here again. We want to force the lift, get all the SCVs, and now I see a bunch of tanks on siege, so I just want to pounce on it. And we're going in here now. He did get an EMP on my Viper, so I couldn't blinding cloud the tanks. And ultras, when they're left alone against the ghosts, are really, really, really bad. But running away with them now is an option. It used to not be a thing, but now you can run away from the snipes sometimes. This was a fantastic counterattack from my opponent, killing 2 of my exterior bases that were still mining quite well. And you can see at this point that I'm pretty broke mineral-wise. Did I already have a Hydra then? I guess I get killed at some point, because I'm pretty sure I made one. I figured my opponent might be going into Widow Mines, so having a Lurker then is pretty good. In general, also, if you have this much gas, Lurker then is quite nice to have. My opponent dropping into my main base with Ghost, which is very expensive for him, since I had Viper so to parasitic bomb the Medivacs. And you can see in the supply that I'm still winning, and I also feel like I'm still winning. I feel like I was winning ever since the 17-17, basically. I think that gave us quite a nice lead in the beginning of the game, and then I had one bad engagement against the first double Medivac drop, but since then, we've been playing alright. We're 6k resources down, which is basically nothing in a game like this. We got a good Fangel, and we killed the base again. And I thought that was pretty much it, but then I saw his army, and his army is actually still not that small. We're getting another Fangel on it, and he just doesn't have mining bases anymore. At this point, I'm like, does he maybe have the left side base and I don't know about it? Because how is he still making units? I really, really didn't get it. In my mind, because you always have to consider, okay, how much did I mine compared to my opponent and how good did I trade? Now, obviously, I trade worse than my opponent because he's a Terran. But I felt like I mined way more than 8k resources more at this point than my opponent. Because I also killed the exterior bases always, and I always killed SCVs with it as well. I killed 90 SCVs at this point, and I was on quite a high worker count for a long period of time. But now, all of a sudden, I'm not even quite sure what happened. I guess I haven't been mining as efficiently with the drones, since my opponent sniped all the bases, and I had to remake a bunch of hatcheries, but we're completely broke, especially in the mineral department. I'm getting a great Fangel here. He gets a nice pickup as well. But we're pretty damn broke. We're struggling for every penny at this point. And now all of a sudden I only have this one fresh mining base, which is this one right here. And this one is almost mined out. This one already. These are already mined out. And in my mind, I know, okay, he doesn't have this base yet. And it didn't look like he had this base as well. But I can't quite see. I can't quite see the CC being landed here. I did neural one of the tanks. I feel like maybe one of the Liberators would have been better, since I could have gotten the tank anyways. And now we're using one of the Liberators against him. I wanted to really get that Siege tank, but instead I got a Ghost and then a Siege tank after with an extra neural. So that was good for us. But now I've had one decision to make, which was, well, do I defend this or do I go? And I don't have any mining anymore. The moment I lose this base, I'm completely out of resources. So I decided, okay, there's no way he actually has a better army than me at this point. So I'm going ahead, I'm fungling. But Ultras, against these low number of buy units, off creep, they're just not that good. I'm out of Infestor energy. And at this point, I thought I lost. I genuinely thought I lost. Now, there's one thing that really saved me, which was that he did not lift this orbital. That's the only reason this game kept going. I'm pretty sure at this point, you can check the player cameras. I think Wardy streamed it. You can check the player cameras. Piotr thought he lost, so he tilted his head. And at this point, I also thought I lost. We both thought we lost. And the truth is, we're at even supply. But the one big downside that I have is that I can't lift my buildings. I can't lift, I don't have orbitals, so I need to invest 300 minerals into starting an extra hatchery, and he can just float an orbital over. Now, he already did float his main base. The orbital I just killed was his main base, but he obviously still has this extra orbital, so he still is on 4 orbitals. So he can theoretically float one here and float one here, and even if he just floats one here, he's already going to outmine me. I still have more workers left, but that also means that in army supply, I'm actually behind. If we look at the unit counts at this point, it's 3 Infestors, 9 Hydras, and an Ultra against 5 Ghosts, 14 Marines, 8 Marauders, 3 Medivacs. I prefer the Terran army, I have to say. So at this point, I think the Terran is actually in a winning position. For the first time in a long time. So I realized, okay, he retook this base. And I took a fight here. And I did get good fungals. I felt like I'm completely all in. I'm starting a lurker then here because I see my gas bank and I still have Hydras left over. One little trick, by the way, to fungal with Infestors is let your units engage first, because your opponent's units are still going to be clumped up, and then since the units are already aggroed on the fighting units, you can unburrow your Infestor right on top of your opponent and then get a fungal in. It makes it a lot easier to fungal if you engage with your ground army first. So now I pretty much get a fungal on everything, but he just has more stuff than me. I have nothing left. I'm looking at my army and I'm like, okay, I lost. I just lost the game. I have 3 Vipers, 6 Hydras. My units are getting sniped. I have no Infestors left. And I surely am dead. My opponent's at 59 supply. I'm trying to abduct a single Marauder to save my life. I'm getting 1 Ghost here, but double snipe. That was not worth it. Not worth it whatsoever. But at this point, I need to kill his fighting unit somehow. It's fine for me to trade Vipers. I just need to somehow stay alive. My opponent's also still... He has the orbitals. He's still mining. So at this point, my Lurker then is finishing up. I'm trying to get up as many Zerglings as possible. I'm getting an extra abduct on a Ghost, and it matters so much at this point. In my mind, at this point, I'm completely dead. I thought I lost... But I'm still trying my best because this is a team league. I'm like, okay, I really don't want to lose. I want to do this for my team. My opponent is stimming forward. I have no units left. I'm sending my Viper back. I'm fighting with the drones 25 minutes into the game with only drones and Zerglings left. And my opponent is dropping behind my mineral line. I had no idea that my opponent at this point had 50 supplies still only. I thought I was way further behind. But I kept on playing anyways, because it is for my team, and I want to get that W. I realized my Lurker then is finished, so the best gas-intensive fighting unit I can make right now are Hydras. So at this point I want to make Hydras, and then morph them into Lurkers, and I want to make Infestors. I'm getting a Marine here, every Marine counts. I realize, okay, I'm mined out here, I have way too many drones here. But my opponent does a crucial mistake, which is dropping his units here. And he's actually going to lose both medevacs worth of units. That was not necessary, and he was always going to lose that. So that kind of saved me. If he kept those alive in the main base, first of all, well, I guess these buildings are not too important, besides the infestation pit. But he could have dropped from behind and attacked at the same time as his main army. Which he has a decent amount of Marines again. He has 19 Marines against 4 Hydras and 19 Zerglings. So it is really close still. And remember, I'm just mining off one base. Even though I have more workers, I'm just mining off a single base. He now goes and attacks with the Liberators once again. These are great trades for me. I don't mind losing a little bit of mining time for 2 Liberators. That's fantastic. If he uses those at the same time with a push from the front, I have no chance. And now he pushes with all of his Marines. There should be no chance I beat 34 Marines. 3 Liberators, 4 Widow Mines with 16 Zerglings. I have less than half of the Marines in Zergling numbers. And 2 Hydras, 3 Infestors, 1 Viper. That's my entire army. He's way up in army supply at this point. He is doubling my army supply. And all he needs to do is kill this one base and he runs into the fungal and I get all of the units besides 1 Marine. That was so big. This fungal was a game changer. The Infestor just spawned. I get the fungal, maximum efficiency. I get the second fungal. I surround with the Zerglings as well. Both Widow Mines fire. It is such a close game. I desperately am trying to get out 1 Lurker because I killed all the Ghosts. He lost all of them here. So I figured, okay, if he just has Marines, maybe making 1 Lurker can help. I'm fungling the Liberators to kill 1, trying to abduct the other one. Moving forward the Spores. I already moved the Spores. This is a Spore from my main base at this point. And the reason I'm sucking this hatchery, even though it should be the spawning pool, is because it's the closest and I want to regain the energy as quickly as possible. So now I'm getting 1 Widow Mine here. All of these units matter so much. Abducting Liberator and using it myself to zone up my opponent. I realize, okay, this is not going to help me anymore. Don't want to use extra energy on it. I don't even have an extra neural, so I'm killing it at this point, and now we're trying to use borrowed Infestors. We now have 8 Infestors against 8 Ghosts, 40 Lings against 20 Marines. This sounds like more of a fair fight to me than the one before. We knurl into Snipe because Ghost won one shot with Snipe. I was hoping he was not gonna be quick enough, even though he was probably looking, to A-move his Ghost with 1 unit, because that would have cancelled the Snipe, but it would have required very quick thinking. 1 scan also would have been enough, obviously, to kill the Infestor. I want to see his vision if he was looking at it. Because I doubt that ever happened to him. He tried to EMP it, but the EMP doesn't damage the Ghost, so... it's getting an extra Ghost. I'm not even actually sure if I got that one. With the Abduct plus the Fungal, we're getting this Widow Mine before it burrows. And the game has somewhat stabilized. My opponent now, though, is up in workers again. And he has 4 orbitals. So it's looking worse and worse for me. The longer this game goes on, the worse it looks for me. But I realize, okay, I can't attack him. Like, how am I ever going to attack him? I'm trying to run by this base, and I'm getting a lot of free SCVs, and that was really important for me. Since I saw my opponent is getting bunkers here, that means, okay, he's retaking this base. And then this one should be exposed. So I went for it. I could have tried run buying it earlier, and that would have been fantastic for me as well. Getting 1 free Liberator. At this point, resource lost 9k behind, so only 1k more than 10 minutes ago. Ever since I thought I lost the game, I started carrying for every single unit I had, and I traded way better than I did before. Retaking the gold base as well, and at this point I'm droning. The bases I'm taking are so far away from his bases that I realize, okay, he cannot go for a straight up push. That would just be dumb. He's probably also just making SCVs, macroing up, so I should do the same. Now that he took the gold base, I'm going for the fungals from the low ground. Getting this entire mineral line. 12 SCVs die. At this point, we killed 138 SCVs. He's getting an EMP, but we get an extra Ghost for it. Just losing a couple of Zerglings. Another pair of good trades for me. No doubt about it, like Yona likes to say. Knurling this SCV so it doesn't finish the turret. Just any unit I can get for free at this point, I'm super happy with. I'm remaking the Hydra then. I want to play Hydra, Ling, Bane, Viper at this point. The Fungal hit squad together with the Zerglings. We're up to 150 SCVs killed. And he's still harassing with Liberators as well. He picked off this base with just a couple of units, but it only had 4 mineral patches left, so I didn't really care about it. I felt like it spread me too far on the map. If I try to defend all of these bases that I'm trying to take, I'm also now taking his base. And we're back up to a decent, respectable 58 worker drone count at the 33-minute mark. We're basically macroing up again, trying to max out. I realize he is not in position whatsoever here. I'm scouting with the board and faster forward. Maybe could have gotten a fungal there, but I was a little bit indecisive. I wanted a little more in the rotation. Double abduct on the Liberators, and I'm zoning out with 1 infestor at a time. Very important to not clump up your infestors in a situation like this. And we get 2 extra ghosts with the fungus. Didn't clear up the second one, but we split just enough that it would be impossible for him to clean up with his reinforcements. So we can kill all of his production. Now he gets an infestor and we'll get another ghost. He retargeted that Widow Mine, which is why he didn't shoot. I microed forward the Zerglings that it first targeted, so that's why he retargeted, and then I targeted the Widow Mine myself to make sure it doesn't fire. That could have been disastrous. And even though my opponent has outmined me, we're back to just being 8k resources behind, even a little less. Even though my opponent has outmined me, he now can't spend his money on army units. So I'm like, okay, I even scout, I am doing a run by. I see, okay, he's remaking all of his depots and he's remaking production. Which means now I have about 50 seconds and then it will be the best time for me to engage, because he wouldn't have produced any units for quite a long time while I am consistently producing units. So I'm trying to max out. On top of that, I'm maxed. So it's just perfect timing for me to attack right now. My opponent isn't quite ready yet. He's not pre-split. And there's no Widow Mines here. It's just siege tanks. So we're coming in from the left, from the right, with the infestors, with the Viper. We killed this base. He didn't lift it. And my opponent is out of army units. And we have done it. We've secured the 3-1 at this point. It was for Shopify. Scarlet versus Chem was up next, which ended up 1-1. So we actually, with this game, secured the 4-2, which I was very happy about. It was a good start for the season for us. Good start of the season for us. But yeah, I just want to remind everybody how crazy it, out of nowhere for me, like even now that I looked at the replay, out of nowhere, all of a sudden, I'm not winning anymore and the game is even. And I would have to look at it a little bit closer myself after I'm done recording this video, because it would take a little bit too long. I would have to take a look at what exactly happened that made this game so close, because I felt like I was owning him for most of it. Usually you can be, if you trade AK resources worse than your opponent, but you keep killing his bases, that's completely fine usually. But yeah, at this point, all of a sudden, I wasn't that far ahead anymore. And the ultras here are not that effective. It's really good for me to get that base. If I didn't, I was super dead, but I was still super dead. I was still super dead. It was just a lurker at some point. It was like a lurker, 2 hydras, a couple of zerglings, 2 infestors, holding against 30-some marines. It was honestly a wonder I didn't die here. It was an absolute wonder. My drones also fought like absolute heroes. We needed everything. We needed everything. I thought I was dead. I didn't leave early. Usually I'm someone who rather leaves early than late, but not in the team league. Either way, I will upload this replay and put it in the description if you guys want to see it. Let me know how you like this format. Do you prefer if I do it just on my first person view? Do you prefer me casting it usually as if this was an actual casted game? Like if I see great games, maybe I can ask for replays from other players' letter games, because I know other casters can't really do that because they're not friends like that. So maybe I can get extra good replays then, because usually in tournaments people play worse than in practice. So yeah, just let me know how you like this video. If you liked it at all, leave a comment. I really do appreciate every single piece of feedback and I read every single comment, and I appreciate you all, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye bye.